Hey there, everybody. Welcome to Poetic Philosophy 92. I got some good poetic prose coming up for you. But first, I want to talk about Star Wars, and in particular, I want to talk about Ahsoka. If you've seen episode 4, you know, and you've read some of the Star Wars blogs out there, you know how exciting it is to be watching this series. And there's speculation on episode 5. I am actually hoping it's going to be Anakin finishing Ahsoka's training. But still, a lot of people wonder, how can Sabine Wren use the Force? Well, first of all, the Force is within us all. George Lucas has always said that. And the question, may the Force be with you, that is actually, may you live so your purpose in the universe will be fulfilled, or something along those lines. You know what I mean? So I was curious too how Sabine Wren can use the Force. So I asked Bing with their new AI. And this is what Bing came up with when I asked, how can Sabine Wren use the Force? And this is what Bing says, the AI. Sabine Wren can use the Force in a very limited way because she has a low level of Force sensitivity. This means that she can sense the presence and fluctuations of the Force, but she cannot manipulate it to perform feats such as telekinesis, mind tricks, or Force lightning. She can also receive visions and dreams from the Force, but they are often vague and unclear. Sabine's Force sensitivity was discovered by Ahsoka Tano, a former Jedi who left the Order and became a rebel leader. Ahsoka sensed a spark of the Force in Sabine when she wielded the Darksaber, an ancient lightsaber that belonged to the first Mandalorian Jedi. Ahsoka decided to train Sabine as her Padawan, hoping to help her unlock her potential and use the Force for good. However, their training was not easy, as Sabine struggled to open herself up to the Force and trust Ahsoka's guidance. They also had many disagreements and conflicts, which led them to part ways for a while. Sabine later rejoined Ahsoka on her quest to find Ezra Bridger, a young Jedi who disappeared with the Sith. Well, it says the Sith Lord Darth Maul, but yeah, we know it wasn't Darth Maul. It was Grand Admiral Thrawn during a space battle. Sabine resumed her Jedi training under Ahsoka, who taught her how to use the Force in combat and meditation. Sabine also learned how to respect and honor the Jedi traditions and values. Even though she was not a full-fledged Jedi herself, she became more confident and skilled in using the Force, but she still had limitations and challenges. Sabine Wren is a unique example of a Jedi apprentice who does not have much power in the Force, but has a lot of courage, determination, and creativity. She proves that being a Jedi is not only about having abilities, but also about having a commitment to a way of life. She also knows that anyone can use the Force for good, as long as they have a willing heart and an open mind. Now, that's that. But I also want to point out, too, the Force is it's creation, it's creativity. When we are in the moment, when we are present, as Qui-Gon told Obi-Wan many times, be mindful of the living Force, of the present. the present moment. Not the past, not the future, just the moment you're in. Because the moment you're in is the moment where you can change the future or past. Mentally, anyways. And by staying in the moment, you unlock, as something I'm learning currently, you can unlock the flow state. And you can create better from yourself. Anyways, just some struggling, just some ideas on that I figured I'd share. Now, to continue with show 892. And the title of this is Along Our Journey, and that's why I kind of started with Sabine Wren, because Sabine has her journey in the Star Wars, in the current Star Wars narrative. But we all have a journey here in our narrative that we live. This next poem I wrote, I work at a hospital, and there was a school attached to a school of nursing that's attached to the hospital, and they were throwing away a bunch of books. And right on top of the pile of nursing textbooks and everything about medical and all that, there was one book, Turtle Island by Gary Snyder. And of course, I saw Gary Snyder. Well, first of all, it's a poetry book, so I'm going to say the poetry book because we need to save our excuse me, we need to save our poetry. So I saved the book, but I knew Gary Snyder because in The Language of Life with Bill Moyers, Gary Snyder was one of the poets that played that. And if you want to listen to Language of Life with Bill Moyers, you can find that over at Audible. Just put Language of Life, Bill Moyers in the search, and you'll come up with it. It was a series of, I think it was like a week, maybe a little bit more than a week and a weekend of shows of poets. But anyways, when I saved this book, I knew I had to write a poem about this experience. So that's what this poem came from. And it's entitled Among the Books. At a school for nursing, somewhere in Nashua, New Hampshire, among textbooks to be thrown out, Turtle Island by Gary Snyder. I picked up the book. I can't see poetry be thrown out. One man's poetry is another man's trash. I flip through the pages and see poems marked up neatly in pencil, trying experiments with words and ideas. Nursing teachers like poetry, at least for a while. But I wonder why not just pass it on, like another Gary Snyder poem speaks, the poem Axe Handles. All about teachers and students. For Gary's book to be in a nursing school, I think would please the poet, except for the part of not passing it on. But that is a poem for another day. And the next poem, the next prose, the next two pieces of prose, short prose. And I live in a rooming house, and I was just kind of going to the bathroom, passing rooms in the kitchen and stuff like that, and I just saw people in their rooms, and that's where this poem came from. This prose came from. In our separate rooms. We all sit in our small separate rooms, surrounded by all our stuff in the worlds we live, on a cool, muggy Sunday. We think of our lives watching stories on the internet from our smart devices, and some create stories in their imaginations. Okay, so all of us create stories in our imagination. We think of past successes and failures, and of future possibilities, and while we're here in the present, where we could take action to choose our own way, we don't. We judge our actions on something outside of ourselves instead of on the source within ourselves. We sit in our small rooms surrounded by our stuff, by the past, and by our future possibilities, instead of being in our center and in the flow of the creative moment. Stories and poetry, song and prose that will never be created, that lay in the higher realms, all wait for another day, hour, and moment in space-time to become and sing to a true beingness on another turn of the wheel. The wheel wills as the wheel wills, as hopefully we play our part in the creation of the beauty of the one force in all creation. The tree waits in the seed for the water, the experience, to release its potential. We are the seed who waits for our time to grow, to stand, and to shine. And that kind of fits the I was talking about Ahsoka and Sabine Wren. I also put out a small piece, I don't know if you caught it in my feed, about do or do not, there is no try. Because that's the key. If we do nothing, we will not grow. We will not see our dreams come true. We won't see this country become a better place. We won't imagine, we won't create or manifest our dreams and desires. We won't be a success. But if we do, on the other hand, if we do and fail, then we can learn from our failure. And even if we do something and it doesn't quite come out the way we want it to come out, I mean, it's okay, but it's not, we still learn something. And because it was a success, partially at least, we have a base to build upon. So, this next piece of prose, I suppose it's kind of like the dark night of the soul, before we connect to the God within. And it's easier to connect to the God within when we see the God in others. Then we're easier to connect it to the God within us. Because God is that force of creativity, of creation that flows through us all. So anyways, here is, and again, I wrote this last night. It was raining. I looked out, it was dark. And it had the pavement was wet, and it had that kind of look and feeling. And that's where this poem came out. Night is long. The night is long, dark and deep. I have miles to travel before I sleep. The great Yankee poet once wrote a long time ago, but now, overcast night, streetlights cast their small light on the scene. I walk the lonely street of souls who are lost in their own creations, who thirst for true knowledge, who hunger for being, whose desire is to be known to the one who hasn't forgotten. In the land of shadows, we only have vague glimpses in the dreams of night about the true reality that only the moon knows. In the reflected light of the full moon, we remember that time long ago, the city of the garden in the land of Eden. On our darkened path, we travel to the home we've forgotten, meeting lost souls along the way to give them food and the water of life, and to share the stories of our dreams in hopes of remembering. And once we remember, we can begin our journey of returning home. We each have that longing, that loneliness of the first separation. In this loneliness, we are united for the time of oneness, of beauty, of love, and of true joy. And that is what our deep desire is, to be in that presence again. But we can be in that presence of God again by being with others, because we are made in the image of God. Ponder on that. And that'll keep you busy for a while. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed the show. Stay creative in the magic of life. Thank you.